I guess this is a shitstorm of sorts or something. Okay. Well, just again, I feel like I'm just going over the same things, but evidently it needs to be gone over. So first of all, on the criticism about putting, conference report and those people in sepia tone. Listen, I know it's complicated for a lot of people to understand. On the one hand, and to you, Peach, do your thing. I'm glad you have video editing skills. Edit your videos. It's a perfectly legitimate style. Okay. On the other hand, when that style interacts conversationally with the other style where we just make videos unbroken as we recorded them, there's a incongruity there. They don't fit together quite naturally or fairly, okay? And now Gary put it in the way of these plain Jane videos, but I'm not even talking about that, okay? It's related, but I'm really just talking about the fact that, look, okay, when you edit your videos, you're cutting out things, not even, stupid things, mistakes, or even just think, oh, I phrased that weird, that could be taken some other way. I know I don't mean that other way it could be taken, so I'll cut that out. Oh, wait, that tone of voice doesn't quite get my attitude. I'll fix that tone, I'll re-record that and fix my tone of voice. These decisions allow you to cut out things that could be used against you because they're easily misinterpreted. And you protect yourself from somebody taking that piece and misinterpreting it, intentionally, unintentionally, either way. Okay. Then you're talking to somebody who doesn't do that. So those things that can be misinterpreted intentionally or unintentionally are still in there. And then you take 5 seconds that make someone look really bad. I mean, I think the point is, obviously in terms of filmmaking, you want to bracket those so that it has, there's a sort of an emotional change to the cut. Putting them in sepia, not a bad thing actually. It could be flattering, fine, right? But you're having the guy just say something that, and you're saying, oh, well, he looks like he's sexually hung up, and then he says these things. It's like, look, he just wants to, okay. I would say it's more fair to frame them positively. That's right, as positively as possible. You might say, because you believe it and you're being honest, hey, I think some of this comes from sexual hang-ups. Look at this clip. Now, he does make other points and then show another clip. Now, why would you go out of your way and take all your video editing effort to make him look good? Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just, damaged by my education and philosophy, but I was taught, and the one good thing I thought about it, one of the main good things I thought about what I was taught in my philosophy studies, is that you should take somebody else's argument and repair it as much as you can. You look for the flaws and the serious flaws. If they have one little flaw, you fix that. You say, look, I think you have a flaw. You have a sexual hang-up deriving this. And look, this whole part seems related to it. And you still go, but let's say you didn't, then that part would look this other way. If you subtract the hang-ups out, here's what it'd look like. You'd still have a concern, but it'd be different. Okay, and then you could frame the person this way more fairly to represent them. Because I was just kind of surprised. Now, I didn't see his video to you, because as I said, to me this question is not one I look for a lot of debate on the internet, mostly because I believe with you and I have my whole life. It should be legalized. You can start with the Nevada approach, though I don't really like the idea of it. It's been solved, because, Nevada, I love Nevada. I'm from California. It's great you can go there, but, it's not all a model. There's something weird about it. I mean, one weird thing is that it serves this kind of role for all the states around it. So it's not just a state. It's not like an example of what it'd be like if everybody did it. Okay? Because it serves a prostitution and gambling tourist industry. A huge one. All right? And then the other thing is there's lots of illegal prostitution still, and two, we really haven't gotten these demographics down pat. Okay, now onto this other thing. I do not want to say that, oh, strippers got there because of child abuse. That's not true. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that overall, you have to study the demographics. I did some research. I got some, some studies. They're in journals. I want to have, respectable ones. This is an emotional issue. It's particularly good to go. So there's like Journal of Psychology. Fine. It's a scientific journal. You have to pay to get the PDF. So I didn't necessarily find any statistics that I would want to quote right now, but this is a real subject. Childhood sexual abuse as a risk factor for subsequent involvement in sex work. And the statistics, I don't want to use an intuition, a sexually hung up driven intuition that must be why. Okay. And frankly, I think there's probably more like, if I had to guess, and if I was willing to guess, meaning and risk using just my sexual attitudes, I would guess that clientele will have a bigger statistical occurrence of sexual dysfunction than the sex workers themselves. But I think there's an issue there that has to be studied, and you have to use real statistics. Yeah, you don't want to make them up or just intuition. I agree. Call me on that. Show me the statistics. I don't have access necessarily to statistics that are right out there that I can Google but can't see the article. But I'll keep looking and update. It's not like I haven't looked at this stuff before and I came to this impression. Maybe, the studies have shown, oh, that was just a myth. I don't know, but we should use whatever the studies say as a reality. We can't just say, oh, you're not even allowed to pretend there's factors like this. Because if as I'm saying, okay, the small group that I have seen involved with this is I watched Gary talk about this issue. I watched the video he mentioned of yours. And I saw you quote conference report, and I saw conference report's reply. I haven't been watching conference reports videos on prostitution. But just seeing that, it was not really much like the conference report. I was surprised he even said those words. So you want to put those words and say, hey, stand by your words? I'm totally fine with that. And it's not out of context in that sense that he didn't really say them. It's just that it doesn't really get the gist of the guy that I watch his conference report most of the time. And I have a feeling there's probably more to his argument. And when he claims that he's not making a moral argument against prostitution, I believe that, because in his general philosophy, he doesn't make a lot of that kind of moral argument. Okay, and he also, I know it to be true that he makes a point about oversimplification. And so in that context, this whole idea of well-produced videos with edits, using the unedited videos in such framing, it all comes together. There really is a factor here. And we're maybe simplifying the issue and setting up sides when, again, those people that I've seen, they all see, I don't know about conference report, but myself and Gary, Gary even said in his being against legalized prostitution that, there are certain examples that might be good, which the examples I call it as sex surrogates. But to me, it all adds up to, and I'm willing to guess that conference report would go with this, that, yeah, in principle, it should be legal. And the issue really is, how do you regulate it? How do you can't just ignore. You can't just say, hey, it's insulting to imply that these people had problems with it. No, because those problems lead them to possibly be manipulated in particular ways. And there has to be, and I'll tell you what, the whole sexual harassment concept in sex workplaces is a huge issue. And we're not talking about some top of the line place or famous club, but just all of the places across the country. How those people, what that work environment is important. Okay. And and there are sexual hang-ups out here. I'm afraid we'd legalize it and go whatever, and then because of our sexual hang-ups, we're like, well, you can't enforce sexual harassment in such a sexual workplace. That's a sexual hang-up to me, to think that you can't come up with the concept of employment sexual. Hey, you're making sex, which is this personal thing, into an employment thing, fine. Then you have to have a way to define it as an employment thing. How you're going to protect their rights. Which things you can't do at all, and which things you can do if the person agrees to it. And there's some of that, obviously. You can't ask an admin assistant to get up and dance naked. You can ask a stripper to do that. So when they're hired, some of these differences are determined. But on the other hand, you can't assume that, because of that when the stripper's backstage, you can comment on her or do things that wouldn't normally be, it has to be the same standard as normal. If she doesn't want to accept that, then, and you're a fellow employee, forget it, And I don't think we have that kind of protection. I think we have protection where strippers, for example, are paid really well and still treated pretty shitty. So, and it's like, well, yeah, but at least I'm getting paid. Yeah, fine. Well, at least you're getting paid. But that's not what philosophy of culture is about and how we're going to structure our culture. We do care. You do have to be treated as a human being with all of your rights as an employee and citizen. But, final thing, I do think that can be done. I think prostitution should be legalized. I think we can come up with things like this, and it's things like, okay, you have to wear a condom, which a lot of guys are, but that's why I'm going. I don't want to. Well, too bad. We can come up with things like that. It can be solved. It should be legal. Okay, so my comments should be taken specifically.